All right, welcome to week 3 of the newsletter. This is my first attempt to make it into an audio format. Please forgive any technical difficulties. So, this week's newsletter is How to Turn a Discomfort into a Neurosis. I was the youngest attorney in my office for 20 years, and for the most part, the youngest employee, period. Even among the staff, I was the youngest, typically. Now, older people lean towards introversion, and so do I, so it was a good fit. But then we started hiring young people, extroverted young people. The new energy pulsated, the office climate felt great, or at least good. But I struggled. I might be juggling 5 mental balls in the middle of a tense transaction, and someone wants to small talk. Trying to decipher a tax regulation, small talk interruption. Trying to get 2 hours of work done before I have to leave for that kid's sporting event, small talk interruption. I'd come home and I'd be like, these effing chit chat interruptions. I'd yell at my wife. I said, they're vampiric, like a vampire like. And I meant it. Extroverts energize from interaction, introverts energize by themselves. These new young extroverts in the office were literally, I guess metaphorically, sucking the lifeblood out of me. I had to deal with these vampires, so I got the tools. I got that fast walk, which is like my crucifix. Kept my head down, my garlic. I had that omnipresent anguished demeanor on my face. That was my holy water. And I kept the office door closed. That's like my sunlight against these vampires. Heck, I even toyed with the idea of getting a chamber pot so I wouldn't have to leave my office to urinate. This practice then spread to every other area of my life. I started to recoil at small talk, avoiding any situation where it might rear its head, welcoming it only, and only, if I had a drink in my hand. Or if it was like immediate family, that was always fine too. So voila, I had turned a source of discomfort into a neurosis. How? Well, it's my amygdala. Dr. Kevin Majors is a weird biped, Harvard medical doctor and devout Catholic. And I know that devout Catholic part through my Catholic underground sources. He doesn't really promote that part of his practice, and it's not really specifically relevant to what he teaches. Anyway, he explains the importance of the amygdala in his excellent, if expensive, workshop, Optimal Work. It's $600 a year, and I think it's going to $850 next year. So check it out, but be warned, it's expensive. Okay, so here's how it works. Our amygdala in our brain senses a risk and sounds an alarm. We then either avoid the risk or approach it. If we avoid it, we thereby tell the amygdala it did well. It helped us avoid harm. The amygdala will then be even more alert for that specific risk. The alerts about that risk will grow stronger and more frequent as we continue to avoid that risk. That's how a guy goes from shutting his office door while trying to concentrate to keeping his car windows up for fear someone might try chit-chat with him at the stoplight. So what's your source of discomfort or inconvenience? Tackle it straight every time it appears. The risk might be legitimate discomfort, but that's all it is. If you continue to confront it, your amygdala will continue to assess it at the proper level, a discomfort, not something that should induce fear or anxiety. Majors, by the way, recommends, as part of his optimal work or deep work, or what he calls the golden hour, he recommends getting ready for those through meditation, and he provides a link to free guided meditations at UCLA. I use them; they're very good, secular, but very good. I also use the Hallow app, which is good. Hallow, I think, is $60 a year. The UCLA stuff is free. All right, so what am I listening to right now? Well, a lot of Blondie. The box set Against the Odds, 1974 to 1982. Now, I don't even know what this is, but I'm a sucker for those oh so serendipitous recording sessions that get released years later. I've seen Million Dollar Quartet 3 times, and it's not a coincidence. This Spotify album is part of the definitive Blondie box set that came out in August. The box set contains Blondie's first 6 studio albums and 4 albums of outtakes and rarities. This Spotify album I've been listening to appears to be the 4 albums of outtakes and rarities. And I'm really enjoying it, but I'm not going to lie. There's quite a bit of shaft to burn through. But it is pleasant overall, and I've gleaned a few kernels. So if you want to check out some pretty neat, like off the record, or not previously released albums or songs I really like, check out the disco song, Once I Had a Love, The Thin Line, Denise, the Terry Ellis mix, Moonlight Drive, I'll Never Break Away from This Heart of Mine, which is instrumental, which is odd. Deborah Harry is the blonde in Blondie, but she's not in this song. But anyways, I like it. And then The Tide is High demo. A neat assortment of stuff there. All right, the quote of the week comes from Bill Kaufman, the always entertaining Bill Kaufman. Quote, Russell Kirk famously threw a TV out of a second-story window of his home in Mecosta, Michigan. But the damn things like zombies. They keep coming on, no matter how furiously one fights them off. Okay, what am I reading now? Lots of H.L. Mencken. Kind of funny, my daughter sent me a picture. Said, hey, there's going to be an H.L. Mencken lecture at Hillsdale College. And I'm like, freaking sweet. Put it on my calendar. She was taking a picture of the poster. I was going to put it in the newsletter. As she's taking a picture of the poster, just by coincidence, the professor giving the lecture walked by and said, hey, Meg, what are you doing? And she goes, I'm taking this picture and sent it to my daddy. He's excited to come to the lecture. He's like, that was last year. No one took the poster down. So, don't know what happened there. But anyway, that got me into yet another Mencken spree. I've occasionally gone on these reading sprees since the early 1990s when I bought my first Mencken books. 3 cheap paperback editions of Mencken essays that I found at the excellent Don Trotter bookstore in Ann Arbor. Now, I've recently been rereading or actually reading the essays, articles, and reviews that he repackaged and issued in the 6-volume set Prejudices, as well as the writings from the second Mencken Chrestomathy, and I might be butchering that word, but Mencken insisted on calling the collection of essays that he curated the Chrestomathy, even though Alfred Knopp apparently hated the term. But anyway, after he died, he had started a second set, but he suffered a stroke later in life and wasn't able to finish it. But the second set, Terry Teachout finished in the 1990s, and it's called the second Mencken Chrestomathy, or Chrestomathy, whatever. Now, the Sage of Baltimore was the biggest writer in the 1920s, which was peak literary culture. It was immediately before the golden age of radio in the 1930s. 1920s, if you want to be entertained, besides personal interaction, heaven forbid, you read. In the 1930s, you started listening to radio. In the 1950s, you started watching TV. Anyway, and obviously the 1920s, it also saw the arrival of cinema as well, but no matter. Back then, print was entertainment, and few entertained as well as Mencken. And he entertained and entertained and entertained. This dude wrote all the time. He estimated toward the end of his life he wrote well over 5 million words. Now, Mencken assumed his works would have a short shelf life, since he wrote mostly about the issues of his day. We'd call them period pieces. But no, they've endured. Why? It's a mystery. Teachout says it's quote-unquote baffling. Maybe they've endured because, in Teachout's words, quote, no finer prose has been written by an American, unquote. Maybe it's because he blasted away at that Puritan progressivism that still afflicts us. I mean, its ideology stained Plymouth Rock in 1620, and it splatters Catholic statues in 2022. And Mencken hated the Puritans. Maybe it's because he mocked the freaks of his day, just like we would mock the freaks of our day if we had the guts, like Tom Petty did in 1989 with Zombie Zoo. Or maybe it's because his prose is full of common sense, even if his godlessness jars our Christian ears occasionally. Teach Out back in 1994 called Mencken, quote, the apostle of common sense, unquote. That's what EWTN with Dale Ahlquist called Chesterton in its 2000 TV series. Now, I don't know which writer got that coveted label first, but no matter, they both deserve it. Now, if we could just find 10 more writers to round out the 12. But maybe we still read Mencken for the same reason they read him in the 1920s. He entertains. His outrageousness slays me. It's why I read P.J. O'Rourke back in the 1980s and 1990s, even after learning he referred to the varied folks of the Asian steppes as the, quote, urine-colored people, unquote. And these writers might be dicks, but their outrageousness cracks me up. Every Mencken piece has at least one, usually a million, pejorative references. Everyone beneath or different occupies a level on the old mental retardation scale: moron, imbecile, or idiot. Politicians, if they rise above the level of moron, are still third-rate men. Bad novels are, quote, the veriest twaddle, unquote. On top of that, his style and grammar are immaculate. I take comfort knowing every Mencken sentence and paragraph is grammatically and stylistically correct, even if wrapped in the 1920s idiom that might shock my woke contemporaries, who would no doubt call me a moron, imbecile, and idiot for snickering every time Mencken uses the word blackamoor, which just means black person, but he used that that term frequently, blackamoor. All right, this newsletter, this podcast has gone on long enough. I need to get back to reading his great essay, The Commonwealth of Morons. Thanks for reading the newsletter. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to forward the newsletter to friends, family, and anyone who's not a moron, an imbecile, or an idiot.